Ready to unlock some financial secrets. We're going to take a deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We're going to look at how changing your mindset about money can really make a difference. This book, it sparked a lot of debate about what it really takes to be successful with money, and for good reason. It challenges a lot of what we think we know about money.
It's true, Kiyosaki. He doesn't hold back. He really wants you to question everything you thought you knew about money, especially those things we hear all the time, like go to school, get a good job, buy a house.
It's what so many of us were raised to believe, right?
Yeah.
But Kiyosaki's main point, and this is where it gets interesting, is about knowing the difference between assets and liabilities. He doesn't just define them. He makes you really think about what those words mean.
And there's no better example of that, or more controversial one, than how he sees a house. It might actually be a liability.
Yeah, I'll admit that one threw me off the first time I read it. I mean, we're practically programmed to believe that owning a home is like the ultimate goal, right?
Absolutely. But Kiyosaki's not saying owning a home is always bad. It's more about really understanding what it means for your finances. Think about it. The mortgage payments, property taxes, the maintenance, it's a constant outflow of money, and that's what a liability is.
And an asset.
Yeah.
That's something that puts money back in your pocket.
Exactly. And it's not just about owning things either. An asset could be a business or stocks, even ideas you own. It's anything that makes money, even when you're not working.
So going back to the house, you could say that if it costs you more than it makes, like if you're stuck with a huge mortgage, it might actually be stopping you from building real wealth.
That's the key point. Kiyosaki wants us to be honest about our money situation. We need to figure out what's really an asset and what's holding us back, based on what we want to achieve. It might even mean questioning those beliefs we have about what it means to be financially secure.
It's about shifting your perspective. And that's where Kiyosaki's ideas about education come in. Now, we all love learning new things, but he has a slightly different take on the traditional education path, doesn't he?
He does, and it's one of the most important lessons in the book. Kiyosaki had these two father figures in his life, his own dad, the poor dad, and his friend's father, the rich dad. They both believed in education, but in very different ways.
Yeah, his poor dad, he had a PhD, believed that a good education meant a secure job. And he wasn't wrong, but it was his rich dad who showed Kiyosaki a different side of education.
His rich dad, he was all about financial education. He wanted Kiyosaki to learn about investing, how businesses work, how to manage money. It was about getting the knowledge and skills you need to actually build wealth.
So it's like formal education is just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
It's that financial education, that street smarts, that business sense that can really make a difference.
Exactly. And it never stops. Kiyosaki really emphasizes how important it is to always be learning about money, whether it's from books, seminars, or even finding mentors. He has this great line, financial literacy is rarely taught, but always learned.
And that's what I think makes Rich Dad, Poor Dad so impactful. It's not just about how to get rich. It's about changing how we think about money and what it means to be financially successful.
It makes you ask those tough questions, like, am I really in control of my finances, or am I just stuck on a treadmill?
And that leads us to a really interesting point. You know, it's funny you should say that about the rat race, because that really stuck with me too. When I first read the book, it was like, yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way, no matter if they're just starting their career or have been working for years. It's that feeling you're running and running, but not getting anywhere, you know?
Exactly. Kiyosaki says one of the big reasons people get stuck like that is because they don't know the difference between working for money and having money work for them.
It's that saying, make your money work for you, not the other way around, right?
Right. And that's where assets become really important again. Remember, Kiyosaki's rich dad taught him that real wealth isn't about how much you earn. It's about how much you keep and how much it grows without you working for it.
So it's not about getting a big paycheck and then spending it all on things that don't give you any return. It's more about building up assets that generate income.
Yeah.
That's what brings financial security and eventually freedom.
You got it. That's where he talks about how important financial literacy is, understanding things like investing, real estate, and business. It's about having the knowledge and skills to make smart decisions with your money.
Which brings us to another big takeaway from Rich Dad, Poor Dad mindset. Kiyosaki says that how you think about money can either hold you back or push you forward.
He really emphasizes that rich people don't see money the same way as the poor or middle class. It's not just about how much they have, it's about what they believe about wealth and how they act because of those beliefs.
And he uses that great example, the I can't afford it versus how can I afford it?
A mentality, right? Absolutely. Just changing those few words can make a huge difference. When you say, I can't afford it, you're closing yourself off to opportunities. But when you ask, how can I afford it, your mind starts looking for ways to make it happen.
It's like you're making yourself think outside the box to find different solutions and possibilities.
Exactly. That's what Kiyosaki wants us to do, to challenge those beliefs that limit us and start thinking with a mindset of abundance.
So it's not just about the technical stuff like knowing about assets and liabilities. It's also about having the right attitude, believing that you can be financially free, that you can build a life of abundance.
It's about taking charge of your financial future and creating a life that you want.
I think that's something everyone wants, no matter how much money they have now. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a really empowering book. It makes you realize you have more control over your money than you might think.
It's about knowing that financial freedom is possible. But it takes a change in mindset, a willingness to learn, and actually doing something about it.
And you know what I really appreciate about Rich Dad, Poor Dad? It's not just about crunching numbers. It's about understanding why we make the financial choices we do.
Exactly. It really makes you stop and think about how you feel about money, you know? Like, what are your core beliefs when it comes to wealth? Where did those beliefs come from? And are they actually helping you get closer to financial freedom, or are they holding you back?
Yeah, it's like taking a good hard look at your financial habits and asking yourself, is this really working? And if not, Kiyosaki gives you the tools and the push to do things differently.
He reminds us that we have more power than we think. We don't have to just accept things the way they are. It's about making small changes consistently that add up over time, just like compound interest, but for your overall financial well-being.
Right. It's not about finding some magic formula or getting rich quickly. It's about slowly building up your financial strength, step by step, until you get to a point where money isn't a stressor anymore. It's a tool you can use to build the life you want.
I think that's a really important point for our listeners to consider as we wrap up. What's one small action you can take today, based on what we've talked about from Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Maybe it's finally creating a budget that actually works for you. Or maybe it's reading that investing book you've been putting off. Or even just catching yourself when you say, I can't afford it, and changing it to, how can I afford it?
Whatever it is, remember this. Learning about money is a journey. It's not about reaching a final destination. There's always something new to discover, a new skill to master. You can always reach a new level of financial freedom.
So keep learning, keep asking those questions, and most importantly, keep exploring the world of personal finance. Trust me, your future self will be glad you did.